Hey you guys, this is Mr. V over here doing a book review today for Fairy Tale by Stephen King. Before I get into my book review, I want you to know that I do a spoiler-free book review, so if you see me looking down sometimes, it's just because I have some notes so I don't give any spoilers away. So let's get into the book review for Fairy Tale by Stephen King. So the general plot of Fairy Tale is it's about a guy, you're following a kid named Charlie Reed. He's 17 years old. His mother died when he was very young, and his father's an alcoholic. And through a set of circumstances, Charlie meets a guy in the neighborhood, a grumpy old man named Mr. Bodowitch. And Charlie starts to help him. And through these interactions with Mr. Bodowitch, Charlie learns that Mr. Bodowitch has a secret that he's been keeping his whole life in a big secret. And Charlie will learn what that secret is. So that's about as far as I can say without giving any spoilers away, as I felt even the book jacket gave spoilers away, and I want you guys to go into this with knowing just that aspect. I don't want to spoil part of the book. So anyway, let me get into my official review for Fairy Tale by Stephen King. I really enjoyed this book. This is almost like Stephen King's Fairy Tale, as it was kind of like a dark fantasy where it had like sci-fi, things like that. But he also references many fairy tales. Like he'll be like, it looks like the character Charlie will be like, it looks like this from this fairy tale, or this reminds me of Rumpelstiltskin here, or this pod is like the witch. I felt that they were like the witch here, and he does things like that, and he references many fairy tales, too many for me to list, and you want to kind of discover those on your own, as he cleverly puts it into the story, and he just has like many Easter eggs. You don't have to have read any of those books or have read the fairy tales to enjoy the book. You can just enjoy it. It's just like an extra Easter egg. But I thought that was a lot of fun, and that's why I said this is almost like Stephen King's like fairy tale in a way, because that is a lot of fun. Now, as for the start of the book, I felt that this book, I thought it was a lot of fun, but it did have a slower start. Be aware that it is a slower start, because about the first 1/3 of the book, you're developing the character of who Charlie is, what's going on, what is his life like, all these things, both characters you're learning about, all that kind of stuff. And if you've read Stephen King before, this is typical Stephen King. He develops the characters. So, but just know that it is a little bit slow in the beginning, but it does not bore you at all. Something draws you in, and Stephen King is great at doing that, because it doesn't bore you at all. It doesn't feel like, even though it's slower, it doesn't feel like it's dragging. And I think the reason is because there's continual wonder while you are reading this book. Like you're always having many questions, and the more you learn, it's like the more questions you have. A good example is like every time something gets answered, another wonder comes around. And it's like a good example I wrote was, at one point Mr. Bodowitch was really guarding the safe. He didn't want anyone to know about it. And he was really guarding it to where then you wonder, okay, well, what's in the safe? And then after you learn what's in the safe, you wonder how the character got that. And then after you learn that kind of stuff, you wonder, okay, well, how will they use it? And then, it's like there's 100 other questions that come up in that time. And it's a lot of fun, because you not only wonder about the situation, like when I said with the safe, you're wondering okay, how did you get this, or all that, but you wonder the characters, okay, how will this impact the character? Will it be good? Will it be bad? What will happen for the character? And I think that's also another area that's a lot of fun, and I think that's what really draws you in. Stephen King is great at doing that, and this book, continues with that. He's just great at that, and this whole time that you have all these questions, it's very it's just a very smooth style of writing. Stephen King is a great writer, and it's just the whole story just flows very smoothly. And it's because there's a lot of great suspense. He's always great at that, but in this book, I just felt he did the suspense thing so well, because I don't feel the book ever dragged, yet I don't feel it ever rushed. It kind of just flowed smoothly. And I thought that was really, really great, as despite me saying that there was a slow start, it doesn't mean that it dragged. Again, it draws you in. So just be prepared for such great writing, because he also the funny thing is he even added humor to this. It was there's one character that really just cracked me up all the time. There was just one character I really loved, but he added humor to it, to where it's like there was multiple funny lines throughout the whole book. It wasn't just one character that was funny. There was other characters, and there was just a lot of fun to it, which is unusual for Stephen King. And also, it still had its dark elements, but it's just it did have some of that fun elements where he'd throw some fun in there too. And I think it's because like also the characters, the characters he did, I think he did a great job with the characters as they had like great depth and they felt like these fairy tale characters, and it kind of would remind you of different fairy tale stuff, and it's just things like that. And you can even like envision the characters, like when Charlie will befriend somebody, you like just can envision it, and you can envision who this guy is, Mr. Bordowich is, and you can envision all these things. And I feel that like really draws you in more, and that's where again I felt that he did a great job writing this. Now, as for the end, I thought that this had a great ending. Now, I judge an ending on multiple factors, but one of them, of course, if I liked the end. But I also judge an end a lot on, did it wrap everything up? Did it answer everything? Because you don't like having loose ends. And I thought that he did a great job with his end. I enjoyed the end. I thought it was great, but with the exception, there was one flaw, which I'll talk about in a bit. With the exception of this one flaw, I thought that he kind of wrapped everything up very nicely. Like, I thought it was just, he just did it in such a great way, the way he wrapped everything up. You didn't feel like you had questions or anything like that. It was just very fun the way he ended it. And I thought the last line was amazing. Like, you have to have read the book to understand. But I thought that he had a great end, with the exception of one flaw, which we'll discuss in just a bit. So, some of the things, though, that I did not like about the book. One thing that kind of got to me in the beginning was that he did not really describe what Charlie Reed looked like for a while. He describes because the reason it got to me was you generally want to envision like what the main character looks like. And he described what the other characters look like, but he didn't really describe what Charlie looked like. So in the beginning, it's like you're reading it, but you don't really know what the Charlie looks like, despite you knowing what other characters look like. Now, a few chapters in, there is a picture of Charlie. So then you get to know what he looks like. But I find it odd, given how Stephen King is with his other books, that he didn't describe really what Charlie looked like in the beginning, despite describing what others look like. Maybe I missed it, but yeah, that part was a little odd to me, and I didn't like that element for the first few chapters until there is a picture, which we'll discuss in just a bit. But yeah, with the exception of the picture, you didn't really know what he looked like, and then after you see the picture, then you know exactly what Charlie looks like. But which leads right into the next part. Now, there are pictures at the beginning of every chapter. Now, you could say that's good or bad. Stephen King books normally don't have pictures, but this one had a picture at the beginning of every chapter. And while I did enjoy the pictures, I actually think the picture would have been better at the end of the chapter, or kind of like referencing the previous chapter. But I don't know, it's kind of a mixed thing with the pictures. I have a mixed reaction with the pictures, because sometimes I thought the pictures were really good, as it will show a character, helps you envision something. But a lot of times I didn't look at the picture. I would skip the picture until the end of the chapter, because sometimes the picture would ruin something big that's going to happen in the chapter, or you kind of know something's going to happen. I could see that if you looked at the pictures first, you may wonder, like, okay, what will happen? But there are times where I think that it would have spoiled it. And that's why I just skipped the picture. And then at the end of the chapter, I would go back and look at what was the picture. That was just a personal preference of mine. But, that was one thing that I could say I did not like, is I wish the pictures would have been a little different. I thought they were still nice pictures, but I don't know. You would have to read the book to understand what I'm saying for that. And then one part that was very odd to me was he had a bunch of like sub-chapter names all at the beginning. Like there would be like 9 sub-chapters inside the full chapter, and the sub-chapters would just be numbered 1, 2, 3 when you're reading. But there would be like 9 different names in the beginning. And I don't know why he did that. I actually think that it was not good. I started to skip the names because it sometimes really did spoil what was going to happen in the chapter. Like, okay, you already know certain things, but it's like, you don't want to know that. So that's why I just started to skip it. I don't know why he did that. So, that was one thing that I thought that was not good. And then one thing I said, there was one flaw I felt in the end. To me, the end, it's just one area just felt weird. It just didn't fit to me. It just, I don't know, maybe just me. It just did not fit. The end did not fit to me. One part only. because I still thought the overall end was great. There's one part that I just felt was kind of weird, and I can't go in depth about it, but overall I still thought it was a great ending. But overall, for this book, I still thought this was a great book because you go through all different types of emotions in here, and it had a lot of fun elements, and it brought back or brings back many great memories from different fairy tales that you heard when growing up, and there's other Easter eggs in there that are a lot of fun. So there's just a lot of fun elements for that. And at the end, by the time I finished the book really leaves you saying like, wow, at the end. This is a 620 or 650 page book, but it still leaves you like, oh, wow, that was a great book. Like when you get to the end, because there's something about it, I can't describe it, but something about it just makes you feel that it was like a great tale. I don't know, you have to just read it, but I thought this was a great book. I'm going to give it my official rating right now. So I always rate a book on a scale of 0 to 10. 0 is an awful book, a 5 is an average, and a 10 is phenomenal. If it gets anywhere near a 10, you should definitely want to read that book, because I'm a pretty tough critic, and a 5's average. If you go back to my other reviews, you can see I'm a tough critic, that it's hard to move up even 1 point in my rating system. So, I'm going to rate Fairy Tale by Stephen King. I'm going to rate this book 8.5. And again, a 5's average, 8.5. So 8.5 is very, very high. I almost rated it a 9, but I felt it didn't deserve a 9. Did I rate it 8.5? Because I felt that Stephen King did a great job mixing all the elements that I said in the review. I thought the story flowed very smoothly. It didn't feel rushed. It didn't feel like it dragged ever. There was a lot of fun elements. There was always continual wonder throughout the whole book. And it was just, I just thought it was a lot of fun throughout the whole book, which is pretty difficult for over a 600-page book, but I just, you kept wanting to know what was going to happen. And, that's why I feel that this was a great book, and that's why I'm rating it an 8.5. I definitely recommend that you guys go out and read this book. I think you guys will enjoy it. If you guys have any comments, questions, disagreements, anything like that, please leave it in the comment section below. I hope you guys click the subscribe button, because I always upload multiple different book reviews. Anyway, thank you for watching my book review today. This is Mr. V. Just go and enjoy your reading.